My name is Joey Carmine. I'm from Long Island, New York. I am 33 years old. I'm adopted from Chile, Santiago, Chile. My mother is from the Midwest. She grew up in Downers Grove, Illinois. She was unfortunately not able to have children of her own. She was carrying, but then in Queens, where she lived and where she met my father, in the subway, that platform, her leg fell in between it. So she lost the baby that way from like internal bleeding and whatnot. And then she just wasn't able to have children. My brother's from Mexico. My sister's from Santiago, Chile, just like me. I've been in and out of hospitals left and right. I've probably had at least like 20 something surgeries just in reconstruction. Nothing cosmetically. Like there's nothing, yes, it's cosmetic, but it's reconstructive cosmetic. When I was going to school, and I don't know how many grades this lasted until, but one, I would have this thing. I could never take off my winter coat. Even in the summer, I'd be walking with like, I just wanted to be completely covered. And then another habit that they had a problem, the teachers, is that like I cover my mouth like this. I wouldn't want anyone to see my mouth area. One, because I had crooked teeth at the time, and then also the scar, because when it's kids, they point out things like that, and so my way around it was just covering my mouth. Well, being so young, I don't think I really understood like mental illness or anything like that, which I do have, and I have no issue talking about that either. But school, I was a very shy kid, especially being like a more feminine kid. So of course I was more picked on by like the boys, and all my friends were girls, which is totally fine. I've never had an issue with my sexuality in school. It almost seemed like it was like the cool thing to be gay or bi. Like everyone was like, oh, I'm bi. Everyone was. It was just a thing, I guess, when I was in school. Middle school wasn't so good for me. Like any middle schooler, I had a chubby phase in 7th and 8th grade. And then I had a friend together. We both wanted to be very thin. Like we got ourselves all like hooked on like The Simple Life, which is like an old reality show with Paris Hilton. And the thing is, we like openly were like, let's like try to be bulimic as kids. And but the thing is, what I'm getting to is with them, it was just a little phase. With me, it's stuck, and I still battle with it to this day. It's not as severe as it once was, but I believe that was like the peak of or the beginning more so of why I was losing control of my life again at such a young age, being like middle school. So that's like 13 and 14 were not like the best years for me. I feel like in a sense, all I had to offer was how I look. With every guy that I've been with, it always ended in just based off how I looked and who I was. It's not actually what happened to me, what I've got, how I get to that place where I am right now. No one cared about that. July 12th, 2021, I'm an alcoholic. When they found me, I don't know how long I was laying there, but it must have been, I think, all day, and I think at least one night, but I was behind a dumpster. I remember going behind there to get shade and to sit there. And of course I was drinking. And then I remember glimpses, like pieces. I remember feeling things in my eyes, and it was so hot, like I couldn't breathe. I was like sweltering, like melting, and I felt like bugs like all over. I couldn't lift my arms, nothing. And I remember like someone, I don't know if it was an officer or something, but they were like, son, are you okay? And then I was immediately in a induced coma for 8 days. I was put in Stony Brook Hospital. In a total, due to this accident, I was in the hospital for at least 60 something days in total due to my injury. So the graphicness of what happened to me is like literally, like if you've seen those like sped up videos with the maggots eating the insides of like a fox or something. That's literally what was going on to my eye. Because I was next to a dumpster and it was hot out, one of the first places that flies lay their eggs and stuff on a human or anyone are their eyes and through their ears and their mouth. And I guess where I was laying, my eye was like next to like a puddle or something. I remember bees and stuff, and then my eye got so itchy and I couldn't do anything about it. During my whole time in the hospital at Stony Brook, I had to like relearn to walk. I was so malnourished. They said like my heart was stopping. Like I needed something to pump my heart. I was on life support. I thought my eye injury was gonna be like, oh, in a month or two it'll be back to normal. But no, I've had 3 corneal transplants already, and this one at the moment is failing. So I'll probably need a fourth one. The redness, I honestly don't think that's gonna ever go away. I actually know the defining moment that I had my first drink ever at like, and not from like an ongoing night. This was like I woke up at like 6 a.m. when I found out my father died on May 17th of 2010. And the first thing I thought was like, I really want to get drunk right now. And I did, and I found beer in the fridge, and I remember it was like pumpkin beer, something gross. But I drank it anyway, and it was like really thick and syrupy. But I got drunk, and I was like, this actually feels kind of good. And then from then on, before you know it, I'm day drinking every day. When I was 12, my parents divorced. Then by the age of 14 was when bulimia started, because that's when I started gaining more cautious of my appearance. And the reason why I started having bulimia, not just because of Paris Hilton, but because I know the moment that this happened too. I was on the bus ride home. No one would let me sit with them because I was the last on the bus. And then at wherever I sat, like someone like moved their backpack, and then like I was in my chubby phase, so going over the speed bumps where like my face was jiggling, I guess, and I stopped eating. I started binging and purging. I had this whole system. I would drink like a whole thing of Coke or something, whatever I ate. Then a half hour later, if I vomited before all the acid set in, then I wouldn't have to worry about my teeth decaying or having bad breath. Like I had all these, and I still battle with it here to there. Like I'm not happy with my weight right now. I'm trying to lose at least like 10 pounds. It always comes down to my appearance, and why it comes down to my appearance is because it's just how I grew up. I was using anti-aging cream at 12 years old. Like it's just my skincare, my beauty is just so important to me. That's what I wanted to do with my life. But then my mother at the time, she wouldn't pay for my beauty school, but she would pay for college. So I would go to Nassau, and for something I didn't even want to go. I was going for liberal arts. I wanted to go to cosmetology, but my mother said no because she wasn't going to pay for it, because she told me no one's going to ever get their makeup done and stuff like that. That was my passion. I don't know what to do. And even with my alcoholism, I have permanent nerve damage where my hand is like tremored. I can't like do makeup anymore. Like it's difficult. And yeah, I did it to myself, but I was in pain. I had no one to turn to. Like the times that I did speak up, like example, when I did run to my mom and told her I'm bulimic, she had no reaction. I still remember it. I was like, she doesn't even care. So I'm 14 now, bulimia sets in. My mother started dating a man that she worked with. He was an alcoholic. My mother basically within months had him move into our home. My sister was in college, and my brother was in the Marines. So it's just me and my mother in this house. And then he moves in. When I was 15, this is where it gets dark. I'm not gonna even say the word, but the R word. So that happened between me and him. I remember I came back from Dave and Buster's with my friends, and I remember coming home. It was like midnight. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm sorry to think of you as like a father figure. Like, you're this and that. And that same night is when he crept into my room, into my bed, and did what he did. My mom didn't believe me. And this is not the first. He's beaten me up. She's seen it. She's protected him for multiple like DUIs, like paid for his lawyers, his new cars. He was just another child that she was raising, but dating. And then it turned into this whole skeptical thing that my mother thought I was interested in him and trying to take him away from her. And that's where my life honestly ripped me into, and it still does. Like anytime me and my mother do get in some kind of argument, this all comes back like it was yesterday. The fact that like, because not only he did it once, he did it twice, and I was underage. I was like, I have to do something. I thought to myself, I was like, I have to do something, otherwise it's gonna go on and on and on. So I was like, I got smart. I excused myself to go to the bathroom. I went downstairs to woke my mother up, and I was like, Mom, you're not gonna believe me. Just follow me and wait like 2 seconds and open the door. When she did that, I went back to my bed, and then he literally was on top of me, like trying to forcefully like kiss me. And then she walked in, she saw the whole thing. Huge blowout, huge fight. He basically destroyed our home. My mother and I had to run into my sister's room, and I was crying, and we locked ourselves in there. And then like I was like, are you gonna call the police? And she's like, no. She's like, we'll deal with it, he's just drunk right now. And then like the next morning, again, the house was a wreck, and I thought it was over with. I thought that was the final straw. Like she saw it point blank. No, then we moved. Well, we ended up selling our childhood home. And then when we moved to Copeg in a smaller home, she ended up was like sneakily dating him again. And I knew what was going on the time a kid always knows. It wasn't like I was spying, but I just knew what she was up to, that she was dating him on the side. And then before I know it, I was with my friend, and I'm like, he's bringing in like things of his, and my mom is just like, oh, I'm just holding it here for him. And then I lost it, not like in a freak out way, but I was like, are you kidding me? I was shaking. I was like, Mom, you're letting him move back in after what you witnessed. You know what she said to me? She told me to get over it. When I was 15, the ladies of the neighborhood would all get together and like have like, I guess like play cards together, rotating between people's houses. And then one of my neighbors, when I was talking to him on a computer, he was telling me how the mothers were all talking about me. And guess what they were saying? The mothers in the neighborhood, the mothers that babysat me, that watched over me, that were supposed to like my second mothers, they all came down to the conclusion. They were like, we see Joey committing suicide when he gets older. But now, being the age I am now, I'm 33, and I have contemplated this, and I don't really like talking about it. That's like a different kind of conversation. But I was like, adults in my life did not care. My mother walked in on me and a man that I brought over. This guy was like 42 years old, and I'm 15. And my mother is just like, oh, sorry. I went back to bed. Like, she did not care. We get in fights, it would be because, her ex-boyfriend. And then she would call the police on me, and I feel like it was her spiteful way of getting back at me for quote unquote ruining her relationship. She told me I'm the reason for the breakup. The second time that he R'd me, he was whispering in my ear, telling me that he's only staying here at the house for me, not for his mother, that he's in love with me. And my mom overhears this in her bedroom, and she came storming out. She's like, you too. Like, she's like, if you guys want to run off together and get married, I'll leave. She caused this huge thing. And you know what I did? I had my MacBook with me, and I pretended, and I went on the photo thing, and I was recording the whole thing. And so I showed my mom literally right away, and then she broke up with him again. Everyone has their idea of what rock bottom is. For some people, I feel like I'm one of them. I just feel like it's one thing after another. Like last summer, I lost a very dear friend of mine. They didn't die or anything. It just, our friendship fell apart. And I don't think we're ever going to go back to where it was, because so much time has passed now, and of note speaking, and terrible things were said. So I relapsed kind of for that reason. There is another reason. That's why I relapsed last summer. And when I went to the hospital to get myself straightened out, I relapsed for like a week. Someone broke into my apartment, stole my car, stole like $6,000 worth of things. So it's just like I came back, like I just lost my friend. I was just in the hospital. I come back, find my place is robbed. And as the months go on, like I'm finding more and more stuff that was taken. The guy was caught, but he got, for bail reform, he's out. Like, I still see him walking around. So it's like all these, like, I'm just looking for calmness.